for the end of the announcements. So first of all, thank you all for joining us tonight. It's going to be a really great night. We are welcoming David Brenner to our monthly meeting to discuss designing living walls for the urban environment, which looks like it's going to be a really great presentation. My name is Erin Castillo. I am the content creator for the SoCal Hort Society, and I will be moderating tonight's lecture. Just as a reminder, at any time during the presentation, you are welcome to share comments or questions from the bottom of your Zoom screen. Simply click the Q&A button that's right at the very bottom of the screen, and all questions will be answered at the end of David's talk. So without further ado, I will actually give the power over to Steve Garisher, one of SoCal Hort's board members, and you will be able to share your plant, or share the plant form, excuse me.
Hi, this is Steve Garisher. I'm the current VP of the Southern California Horticultural Society, and I'm here to do tonight's plant forum. And so without further ado, let's see if I can get this up for us. Is everyone seeing that on the screen?
So far, I don't see anything. Make sure to hit share screen at the bottom of Zoom too.
Let me go back then. And oops, of course, no. Oh, I don't need that. I'm on something called a post attendee thing. Hang on. Now let's see if we can get this. And where did my... Sorry for the technical delay here. Is that doing it now?
No. Oh, it's starting to share. Perfect.
Oh, okay. All right. This first slide, if Michael Crawley is actually attending the meeting right now, if he could click in on the Q&A section, or even the chat. I don't think the chat section would be open to him, but if he can give us more and anything more on this for ID. He's asking for a plant ID, and there's a picture of a tree stump, and I have nothing to go on. I'm gonna guess. I'll make an educated guess that might be a coral tree. I'm not sure. Just because it says its flowering season is summer and it's bare, it could be, but what color are the flowers? What shape is the leaf? Without anything else to go on, it's really difficult to identify. So in future, if you do need a plant ID, if you can give us a close-up, and if not, if you could at least give us description, a fair amount of description of what it is and what it does, when. So, because otherwise, I can't tell from that. That's too far away. But as I said, I'm guessing erythrina. I have no idea. So the first plant is actually from my own garden. This is leucadendron called Strawberry Blonde. And it was named as a chance seedling from a group that was Leucadendron Salignum, and I think it was Summer Red or something. And this came out of it, which it's highly unusual in that it starts white. When I took this picture a month ago, we weren't doing plant forum, and it's now fully red. It's a kind of deep, almost a smoky red color now instead of this white. So the transition was really interesting to watch. I haven't used it as this one as a cut flower yet, but they do make very good cut flowers. They are Proteaceae that grow in South Africa, and they grow on they grow on acidic soils. When I was on tour there, we actually got to see streams running with brown with tannic acid. So you know how much acidity there is in the soil. So if you're growing these, toss on some coffee grounds every once in a while, or at least give them cottonseed meal to acidify the soil, because our soil's alkaline enough that they would appreciate it. Otherwise, they are fairly drought tolerant once established. I don't know how this got in there. It says sometimes available at maybe I did write that at California Native Plant Sales. They'll sometimes sell South African plants that can be planted with our native plants. But this one I actually picked up down at Plant Depot down in Capistrano, San Juan Capistrano down there. They usually have a very good selection. Or Joe O'Connell would probably sell this as well up in Ojai at the Australian Native Nursery. So otherwise, it's a smaller growing of one of the leucadendrons. This doesn't get as big as most of them. This is from Eric and Ann Brooks. It's Scadoxus puniceus, excuse me. And it's paintbrush lily or African blood lily. That blood lily thing, it's one of those common terms that's used for a number of different plants, for hemanthus and some other things. But the Scadoxus generally are in this the range of pinks to reds. This is an interesting, it's a late winter bloomer or early spring. The Scadoxus albiflos that is much more common in gardens will be blooming pretty soon, I think. I think it'll bloom with the first warm days, longer days as well. Their bulbs, fairly easy to grow. They require well-drained soil, no frost. And when they're dormant, they actually don't want too much water. You can rot them if you give them too much water, but otherwise they're really quite interesting flowers. Cantua Buxifolia. This one was, I remember when Eric and Ann brought this into one of the meetings, and I was fascinated by this because normally the Cantua that you see it's magenta. It's these bright magenta flowers. And this one is, I think, probably closer to the species the way you would find it growing in the, it says the Andes here. It's a sacred flower of the Incas. And really a hummingbird magnet. I think this is one of those plants that you'll have hummingbird fights over. And as they say, it blooms pretty much all year, except usually if we get extended periods of cold, this will usually stop blooming. And it does want fairly well-drained soil. If it's on soil that's too heavy, you may end up losing it. I've lost a couple different varieties on my heavy clay soil. So give it full sun, give it some well-drained soil, and you can have hummingbird fights going on in your garden as well. Another hummingbird magnet. This is Caliandra Surinamensis. I've actually never seen this growing. This is kind of an interesting one. The powder puffs, we have a native one. There's some from Central America, South America, up into, I think, Mexico. There's a number of different powder puffs, and this looks to be quite a large one at 15 by 15. And one of the things, at least for most of the tropical and subtropical Caliandras, that you should probably know if you haven't grown them and you want to try them, is during the middle of the day, they will sometimes fold up their foliage and it looks like they're water stressed. They're really not. It's just it's a water saving adaptation. It folds up the foliage so that the sun won't hit it and cause the plant to dehydrate or to lose moisture through the surface of the leaves. So don't overreact if it looks like it's folding up and dying. It really isn't. It's actually just saving its moisture. So again, hummingbird magnet, and they say that they've seen them at South Coast and they're pruned up into trees, which would be kind of interesting. On the availability of these things, I wasn't talking about, I didn't mention that with the Cantua. I think they said they got theirs at Annie's Annuals. It's still available through Annie's, except I think now they only have the hot pants form. This Caliandra, I don't know where you yeah, they say not sure. They probably picked this up at one of the sales that they've attended in past. And so let's move on to, this is Aromophila. And actually my picture, oops, my picture's in the way. And I don't know which Aromophila it is. Anyway.
This one is Fire and Ice, Aromophila glabra.
Aromophila Fire and Ice. So I don't actually have the species name on this. It's an Australian, again, drought tolerant, well-drained soil. Another one that's probably, I would imagine, hummingbirds will come to, even though there are no hummingbirds in Australia. This interesting thing with Australian and South African plants is that they have analogous bird species there. And so anything that the birds visit in those countries or those parts of the world, hummingbirds will visit here. So it's an interesting Aromophila. Most of them are a little more green. They don't have this tomentose or dumentum on the leaves, that kind of almost powdery look to it. It looks like it's been rolled in flour. It's been dredged in flour, ready for cooking. So I haven't grown this one. I'm currently growing one of the interesting blue ones. I actually probably should have put a picture of that on here tonight because it's just going into flower. Fun plants though, Emu Bushes. This is from Jones Citron. It's Phadronassa viridiflora. And it's, let's see, what is this? It's I think it's Amaryllidaceae from Ecuador. And this plant, she said hers was originally a single bulb from Bill Baker, who many of you may know as it was a noted plantsman and breeder of a lot of different plants. And she says she's had it for almost 13 years, and it takes frost and 118 degrees just fine. But for me, I've seen this in bloom in her garden, and this picture doesn't do it justice. That flowerscape is quite tall. Those flowers are quite large. And I tell you, for me, this is one of those plants that inspires plant lust. I want this plant. So Joan, if you're listening, if it sets some seed, I'll take some. Acacia Glaucoptera. It's hard to find now. This actually for a time was easily available. It was in a lot of nurseries. It's a big kind of mat forming acacia. It sort of billows and it doesn't get terribly tall. It'll get 2 to 3 feet, sometimes a little bit taller, and it'll spread quite wide. It's really nice when you can plant it on a slope or hanging over a wall. It will drape down the face of a wall. When it's the new foliage, you can kind of see in this picture, it's bronzy red, almost the way a rose bush is when it's putting out new foliage. And then these flowers appear from the kind of these serrations down the leaf. They appear right at the outer edges of those, and it's really quite nice. Faint fragrance to the flowers, if I recall. And also one of the nice things about this is if you do any work with dried material, it dries a silvery gray color with this great, the shape of this foliage is fascinating, and it will keep really nicely in a dried arrangement. But drought tolerant, easy to grow in full sun. And really the only problem is trying to find it. It's just difficult to find. I've had to special order mine, and right now they're not available. I tried to order it for a garden recently and nobody seems to have it at the moment. So not sure how easy it is to grow from cuttings, but maybe we'll find out. And I think this is the last one. This is Iris reticulata. It's from northern and southern Turkey and Iraq and northwestern or western Iran and Russia. So it's an interesting little bulbous iris that is dormant for much of the year, and when it comes up, this happens very quickly. You get the foliage, the flower happens very fast. And as I recall, there's no stem to the flower. It's a floral tube that goes all the way down into the bulb, and you can You can actually pick bouquets of this, but you have to snap that floral tube by grabbing the flower and tugging on it, and it'll snap down underground, and you get about a maybe 3 or 4 inch floral tube that you can then put in water, and it'll hold for a while. But as Joan notes here, that you have to remember that they're there in the garden, or you'll end up digging them up or planting something over them. So they are otherwise extremely hardy. They will come back year after year in the right spot when you find the right spot for them. So that is pretty much it for the plant forum. I thank everyone for putting the plants up for us to see. It's always interesting to get these things. And now I will turn it over to Carol Aronson, a fellow